Today, you will learn once and for all what the best anime genre is, and without a doubt, you will agree with my opinion. There are many different genres out there in the world, the common ones being crime, fantasy, romance, science fiction and horror. But we as anime and manga enjoyers know about so many more subcategories. Years ago, I fell in love with a setting for stories which slowly over time got turned into its own genre by the community. You might already know which genre I'm talking about, especially as every single season is filled with multiple new anime coming out that are a part of this genre. Yes, I am talking about isekai. Probably a genre or setting most people either love or hate. I mean, it's understandable with the generic copies of each other being released only a few months apart or maybe even in the same season. However, the isekai genre still offers, in my opinion, so much variety and possibilities that it will never get boring and thus never die out. The biggest problem the anime versions have is that almost none of them get finished. The same can be said for the manga parts, however, as most of them come either from light novels or web novels, and most weebs tend to shy away from stories that only use words. Pretty picture we like. Isekai is a genre that can be found everywhere, not only in the anime scene. Some famous names that are technically isekai are Narnia, Matrix, Tron, and possibly even Harry Potter. If you watch till here, you probably have at least some interest in isekai or anime in general, so why don't you consider clicking that subscribe button to hear me talk about more topics like this in the future? But now, let's continue. Even in isekai, we differentiate between subcategories. We have the standard isekai, where someone travels over with their original body to another world. But even here, you can categorize them further. Traveling methods like dying, being summoned, and accidental world hopping are the most common, but there are so many more that I just can't even talk about all of them, or I would literally destroy the scope of this video. These are probably the most basic options to start an isekai, but it still offers the writer a lot of choices to go from. Even though that's the case, most of said authors still sway to the same concept of an overpowered main character, gathering pretty girls, building their own harem, and only have minor story developments until the very late parts of the story. Obviously, these kind of isekais aren't that good, even in my opinion, but they have proven themselves, and just like a good old McDonald's burger, they are very easy to consume. This, however, leads to what I call the Izukai Flood. Just like every other genre, you have to go through a lot of average shows until you find a gem. And two of these gems, for example, are Reincarnated as a Slime and Mushoku Tensei. Another one will also be the beginning after the end, but I will probably talk about the beginning after the end in a completely different video. These two shows, Slime Isekai and Mushoku Tensei, have similarities, but in the end they are still completely unique from each other. Both of the main characters died, and instead of having their original bodies, they got reincarnated in a new form. One of them stayed as a human, that's Rudeus, and the other became a monster, that's Rimuru. The worlds they now live in hide countless mysteries just waiting to be discovered, and options for the characters to choose from and develop because of these decisions. So many things to see and so many things to do. This is just what I love about isekai stories. The experience of being thrown into a completely new location and having to learn how to live in this fantastical place. In most cases, we as the viewers or readers, if you read the manga or maybe even the light novel or web novel, we get to join the characters on this journey of discovery. I have already talked for a while, but I merely scratched the surface of what isekai really are. There is another variation of isekai stories that give us a completely different experience compared to the last few that I have talked about, namely reverse isekai. The concept of a reverse isekai is that a being of a different world gets transported to our world. Here we get to enjoy how these creatures learn about what we assume to be normal and how their common sense doesn't apply to our human world. Most of the isekai that use this method are more on the relaxing side or maybe the funny side of stories. However, even these can have great action sequences. Just think of The Devil is a Part-Timer, which is getting a second season right now, or a series like Jahi-sama, Dragon Maid, or one of my personal hidden gems, Recreator. Now, if you see what I normally upload on my channel, you might think, why is Pyro talking about isekai now? The answer is, always has been. The word isekai basically only means another world. In some cases it can all be used for parallel worlds like Standing on a Million Lives that I just recently finished. So technically you could call my One Piece What If scenario Shadow Piece an isekai series, because it is a parallel world compared to the canon version where Luffy and the Straw Hats are having their adventure together. And while my first original fantasy story, that still needs a name by the way, is not an isekai, future ones might very well be one. Even I as the creator can't control what the godly roulette will create. So that just gives us all of these different options that even I wouldn't be able to do, because I'm just a human like all of you probably, and thus making all of these crazy inventions are just over my head. So the roulette is my way to actually do something crazy that I could have not thought about on my own basically. Well, enough said about my first fantasy story that only has one episode out right now, but I can also give you a sneak peek into a certain project I'm currently writing that will be released on my Royal Road account sometime in the future. I will leave a link to that website in the description, but here's the sneak peek. The story that I'm currently writing and preparing is an isekai story. Obviously, it fits to this video here. That might have been the reason why I actually wanted to do this video. But in this story, our protagonist gets isekai'd through a certain method that I don't want to specify just yet. But this is not the end with the connection he has to his original world. The people he was together with until the moment he got transported have seen this mysterious circumstance and event happening in front of their eyes. And now they are trying to figure out what exactly happened to their friend, while the friend is going to live in this fantasy world. Will they ever meet up together once again, and how will they do it? That's basically a summary of this, but for now, that's all I have to say about isekai stories. However, as my love for this genre or setting is huge, you will probably see future videos about isekais here as well. Maybe the one that I talked about for the beginning after the end, or some of my original fantasy stories will be isekais. Or maybe the story that I talked about just now will also get some voice videos for me on this channel as well. But all that is left to be said for me right now is stay healthy, stay cultured, and most importantly, stay hot. This was Pyro Prima, and we will see each other again in the next video. Bye!